Go up that way first, by the bridge.
Von Glendern Cove is off of Carr Inlet in the South Puget Sound. It's about a 40, maybe 45-minute drive from Tacoma. We launched from the town of Home, which is a very small little town, and they have a tiny little boat ramp. And we paddled out across the cove, and one of the first things we found was this very cool abandoned property. The structure was boarded. The dock seems to be in disrepair. There were rotted pilings for erosion control set up along the shore, but it was a really neat little piece of property right along the Key Peninsula Highway, next to the bridge that crosses the end of the cove. So the first bridge we came to was the Key Peninsula Highway, and it's a high tide, so the bridge is fairly low, but we made it under with no problems. After passing under the bridge, we turned up this just very small waterway to explore and just see what was back in here. And you can see the water clarity changes. This is very brackish. There's a lot of runoff. There's a small stream, and there's some water that just kind of feeds into the cove from back up in here. So we're going to kind of paddle up under some down trees and through some branches and bramble and just see how far back we can get. Now, this section of the waterway is it's pretty thick with down trees and brush, and if this were not at high tide, I would not have been able to get back in here. I've, at this point, retracted the skeg, so there's nothing to catch underneath my kayak, and when I get to the kind of the end here, I realize that there's really just nowhere else to go. I can't get any further back of this little waterway, which is really just more of a small drainage feeding into the cove. But what I do here is I just start paddling and do a 180 and then head back out. And I gotta wait for the boys because they had been following me in. But you'll see here that the water, definitely there's a lot more sediment in the water, and that's from all the runoff. In all honesty, this made me a little bit nervous, just paddling under a down tree that's basically supported by friction. Had there been any wave action or anything at all, we would not have gone back here. It was kind of sketchy, and having the boys back there made me a little nervous. We saw some really cool houses back here, and had it not been so noisy next to the Key Peninsula Highway, these would be some really cool properties. That almost reminds me of summer camp style buildings, and would just be pretty amazing to live here, except I think the road noise from all the trucks and the traffic would probably make me nuts. As we came around the corner, I found a life jacket just floating in the water. And my first thought was, oh, I hope that's not attached to anyone. It wasn't. It was just something had probably blown off somebody's dock or backyard, and it was just randomly floating there in the back part of this cove. At this point, we are kind of back in this area between the Key Peninsula Highway and Heron Road, and we're just kind of following the edge of the cove as it just kind of peters out and gets thinner and thinner. During low tide, I'm sure this whole area is just mucky and marshy and just not navigable. But at high tide, we were able to get back pretty far, so we just took advantage and went back as deep as we could. One of the things I noticed were a lot of stormwater drains that were just dumping right into the backside of this cove. And you can notice here, you'll see that the water clarity is pretty gray. And that's, this is brackish water. This is fresh water mixing in with the salt water from the Puget Sound. But it also got me really thinking about that 0 point pollution from, just all the runoff from the street, from the oil that drips off of our cars. And it winds up getting into the stormwater drains, and it eventually ends up places like this, these just really beautiful nature areas, because, not all places have oil separators, right? So whatever gets on the street off of the Key Peninsula Highway or the surrounding neighborhoods just drains directly into this cove. So I don't know, it just got me thinking about how important it is to make sure your gear, like your trucks and your cars, are in good shape and you're not leaking oil all over the place. Right here, we're kind of leaving the backside of that cove, and we're about to go under the Heron Road Bridge, and we're going to follow this waterway up. One of the things I just really love about kayaking is the gear, right? So I'm paddling a Dagger Stratos, and it is just by the nature of a kayak, has a very low draft, so I can skim over a lot of stuff. The profile on it is also very low, and I'm sitting low in the water, so I can sneak under bridges and under down to trees and through the brambles and the brush, and I can explore and get into places that I would be impossible in most other types of boats.
It smells delicious.
Get a close up of those pogies. How are those working for you?
They're working pretty all right.
Are you liking them?
Yeah,
You're
keeping my
getting used
hands
to 'em?
warm and dry. Yeah, they're good.
What brand are they?
Next Adventure.
We followed the cove just as absolutely as far back as we could get. We crossed under the Key Peninsula Highway Bridge. We scooted under the Heron Road Bridge and just followed this waterway back as far as it would go. And we were getting into more of a residential area. You can see somebody had set up a swing down here, and the property on the right, up on the side of the bank there, you can see they had a lot of what looks like storm damage. So there was a lot of trees that were down, and it looks like they just let them fall directly into the waterway. And when I look at the satellite imagery and I look at the map, we literally got right up to the very edge. There was, maybe another 10 or 15 yards of waterway that we could have gone, but it wasn't worth it with the downed trees, and literally it was just, even with the shallow draft of our kayaks, it would not have been worth it to get up there just to have to back up over these trees and branches. So you can see we're just about ready to go back under the Heron Road Bridge. And one of the cool things I noticed as I was looking down into the water was you can actually see the freshwater and the saltwater mixing. There was this brackish layer where it was mixing, but you can see this really cool like mirage type effect in the water as you were looking down through it towards the bottom. Made our way back through the backside of the cove, and we're about to paddle underneath the Key Peninsula Highway. There's what a shift. As soon as you pass underneath the bridge, it opens up. You can see the entirety of the cove all the way out into Carr Inlet. The clarity of the water also changes because it's open, you don't have all the sediment right here, and this actually is one of the reasons why I love kayaking and I love scuba diving in January. The sunlight isn't causing all of the plankton to bloom, it's not feeding all those tiny little critters, so the water visibility is just amazing. I've got 30 feet, 40 feet visibility right now, and that's not something you get in the middle of summer. Now, the trade-off for this beautiful plankton-free water is very short day and very chilly temperature. So today, the water temperature was like 46 degrees. The air temperature was about the same. So you absolutely have to have immersion gear. We're all three using dry suits. We're using the Coquetette Supernova, and they are great dry suits. We paddled about 4 miles. We went from the boat launch at home all the way down to the end of Von Glendern Cove, and then we actually paddled all the way to the entrance, and we took a probably a 15-minute break there at the entrance to the cove, and then made our way back to the boat launch. So it was about a 4-mile round trip. We hope you enjoyed our little exploration, and we thank you for watching.
Good Lord!
So you agree that you're gaslighting. So I'm not incorrect. What I did was I assessed this information, saw what you were doing, and called you out on it.
No.
So if anything, I'm the sane one. You're the bad person who just can't make